are you?
I'm well. How are you today, Andrea?
I'm well. So I'm so grateful that you're spending a little bit of time with me here for our Raising More Voices series. So thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I would love to just start with, just you telling us a little bit about yourself. So your name, what you do here at Quickbase, maybe how long you've been here, and anything else that you'd like to kind of share by way of introductions.
Sure. My name is Jaclyn Albanese. I've been at Quickbase, actually next month, it'll be 5 years, which goes slow and fast all at the same time. And my role is actually, I'm sort of in transition of roles, taking on a new role that we have, which you can sort of think of me as our internal CRM product manager. So I'll be translating what the business needs from a sales, customer success point of view from their process into translated into our technical teams who do the actual work in CRM. So I'll sort of be translating that work, which is exciting. And that new roles are being created all the time here at Quickbase.
Yes.
I am also a leader and event chair on our Pride ERG, Employee Resource Group. As a gay woman, I think it is very important to represent our community. And I'm so glad that we have an ERG at Quickbase that represents our voices.
Awesome. That's fantastic. Well, I know you've been at Quickbase for almost 5 years. Congratulations on that anniversary, by the way. But I would love it if you could tell me a little bit more about your tech journey. How did you end up at Quickbase? Is this your first tech position, or have you been kind of rolling through tech the whole way through?
Yes, actually, only second tech position. But so I went to school at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, and they have a big hotel program there, which I majored in. And so I went into hotels for event planning. And so I was an event planner on the hotel side for a bit. And then I was out in San Diego. I moved back home here to Boston. And sort of flipped and went to event planning on the corporate side in healthcare. I worked for a company who delivered continuing education credits for primary care physicians. And then I moved on to medical device. So again, in healthcare, medical device event planning. And that's where I really started to get a taste for technology. We had in a very poor process for our sales reps to go out into the field and hold events or go to regional, local events and bring their machines. And so I used actually Salesforce to create a streamlined process for our event planning processes, I guess. Mm-hmm. And so getting a taste of technology, I was like a typical Quickbase user trying to find technology to improve my business process.
Yeah.
And from there, I learned Marketo. So it was at the very start of marketing operations. So I became a Salesforce certified admin, a Marketo certified expert. And so that I fell in love with that technology piece to improve business process. And from there is when I got an opportunity to step into the tech world at a tech startup. And so I sort of wore many hats, as you do in a startup. And then right after that came here to Quickbase. So it's really only my second tech position, but it fits very well with where I'm at.
That's so interesting. I think kind of going from like an event planning type role, which there's a lot of like logistics, right, in terms of event planning. And so I think, I always kind of default to like, okay, well, let's just put it all in a spreadsheet and figure out how to get this going. And then, but to be able to really think about how you're leveraging technology to do your job better, and then falling in love with the tech part of it and really kind of making that the focus. And I think you're getting a little bit of the event planning now with the ERG work that you're doing, but it's interesting to kind of see how that shifted kind of where your focus was in your career.
Yeah, it's sort of funny to sort of see the change and how it all relates. It's still all back office, right? Yeah. It's but it is solving that and making it more efficient for the end user. So.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's fantastic. And Las Vegas, that's amazing going out there for hospitality and hotel management and that kind of stuff too. That's awesome. What a great place to be where there's such a hub for all of that.
Absolutely.
So, as you've been on your journey, as you've been kind of evolving your career, I would love to know if anybody has really kind of served as a mentor or an inspiration for you.
I think my mentors come from all different spaces and serve different reasons, and maybe even just for a point in time. I've been lucky enough and fortunate enough to have a lot of women mentors throughout my career, especially in medical device, healthcare, and tech. Sort of few and far between, but it's great that I've sort of been able to find them. But I use different mentors for different, and I think a lot of people have said this, right? You sort of piece together what you need from your mentors. Like, I need to learn business acumen, and this person asks great questions. Like, can I learn that? Even something I used to, when we had all hands more, if somebody asks a question, then I'm like, oh, that was so intelligent. How did you bridge the gap between what was shown on the slide to your question, and understanding their thought process? Like, really just, sort of trying to gain that knowledge of how other people think or their vantage point has been really helpful to sort of help me expand my my knowledge as well.
The question kind of, how are you thinking about linking questions and slides and all that kind of stuff? I think that's a big one. I remember, kind of in my kind of upbringing and kind of like, how do I operate in business settings? Kind of that ability to ask really great questions is something that everybody always talks about. And I think even like now when people ask really great questions as I'm facilitating or if I'm running workshops, like I'm always really drawn to kind of those questions, people who are engaging with the work and really kind of starting to internalize and do kind of that next level of thinking. I think that's such a key skill. For sure.
Absolutely. You can sort of see their mind working and like how it's like, oh, I want to know how you did that. Like, how did you do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are just coming off of Empower, and we had an amazing conversation with Janet Mock where she was talking a lot about being your most authentic self and what authenticity looks like in the workplace. And so I would love to get your thoughts on, kind of what does authenticity mean to you, and kind of how is that showing up, for you at Quickbase?
There was just so much positive feedback from her and your conversation together. And it was fantastic. And I think something that resonated that she said with me was, or she said resonated with me was how if you share your story, people connect to your sameness more than your differences. And it's so true, to the point where we had that follow-up, the breakouts with our customers and Quickbase employees, and we got to sort of share our thoughts on the conversation. And we heard from some customers who really shared their story, and it was like, oh, it just connected so well. And it was so great to connect with our customers as humans and not just see them sort of, oh, what a cool thing you're doing with Quickbase. Hey, that's great. Like, woo woo. But it was like, connecting with them as humans, and regardless of their background, we all just sort of had this same shared experience, which was so nice. And just hearing them being their authentic self, and how they, in their companies, especially with the world, how it's changed, are able to bring themselves to work, because we are at home and you can't help but be yourself at home. And then there you are at work, just sort of that seamless transition. And I think that was great to hear. And speaking of inspirations, your last question, that's my most recent inspiration, is connecting with our customers on that level. So, and I think in terms of being our most authentic self at Quickbase, there has been a tremendous shift at Quickbase. And like I said, I've been here 5 years. I've seen it change, and the actions we're taking at Quickbase specifically is creating that environment where you do feel like you can just bring yourself to work and be who you are and talk about your family or talk about your history. And it is welcome and accepted. And that is a wonderful, wonderful feeling.
That's awesome. That's really awesome. So much of what you said just really resonates with me. I'm sitting here like, yeah, the whole time. But I think what's the storytelling and that connecting, kind of going back to your original comment around, kind of, we are attracted more to the sameness than the difference. And that's a really great opportunity for us to get to know our customers, get to know the people that are, in that Quickbase community on a deeper level. I think, we're able to solve problems better together when we know each other and we have those personal connections. And, if there is a silver lining, from COVID, I think kind of the idea of authenticity and really kind of bringing, literally bringing work to our home lives and home to our work lives is definitely happening. And hopefully that's something that we'll take with us even as we start to transition back to more of an office kind of culture. Absolutely. So I've been thinking about, kind of our Raising Our Voices series. And one of the things that I love to ask at the end of my interviews is, where do you see the greatest opportunity for elevating voices in tech? And specifically, since it's Pride Month, looking at LGBTQ plus voices. Would love your thoughts on that.
That's a really hard question, Andrea, because I think what's hard about this is there are so many opportunities. And
Yeah.
it's really hard to define just that one area, because, sort of like everything comes to mind, like, oh, we can do this or this or this. To really boil it down, I think what I'll say is it really starts with the conversation, because if your company's not having the conversation, they're not going to bridge it to the action. And change really depends on that action. If you're in a place that you want to sort of start to take action on diversity, regardless if it's LGBTQ plus community or any other diverse attribute, we really have to have these conversations and be committed to taking the next step in the action. And I think that's something we've done really well, and especially you in your role to keep this ball rolling is not just what are we doing now, but what are our next steps to keep this ball rolling, to make the change, to really keep it going. And so I know I didn't give you a specific answer because there is so much room for opportunity, but I do think it really starts with those baby steps to get the ball rolling.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, conversations like this, I think, are really important. Just kind of having people tell their stories, share their stories or experiences as members of those different diverse communities, I think is huge. I'm really excited about the work that you're doing with Quickbase Pride and then the other employee resource groups, and hopefully that getting the ball rolling to not just thinking about, okay, how are we bringing people into the organization, but really how are we lifting them up, giving them platforms, creating the kind of change that we want to see, and really just getting to that place where we are truly that most inclusive company in software and tech that we're striving to be. So
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, any other kind of closing thoughts for us before I let you go?
I think that was a good point that you had. I think, the tech space is always on the forefront of change and progression. And I think a lot of the change is going to happen in the tech industry and in companies in tech to really sort of move our world forward. And so to see sort of the initial changes happening to really push this and innovate the change is a place I like to play, right? Like it's a great place to be right now. And I think companies putting a stake in the ground to say, these are our values and this is important to us, especially with the world today. Yeah. Now that we're from home a lot, people have changed their values, or maybe they've just reprioritized their values and home is up here and work is down here. And they're looking for companies where their values align. And so for companies to put a stake in the ground so that, an employee can determine this is a place for me or not, I think it's very important. So those are sort of my final thoughts.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jaclyn. I really appreciate you spending some time with me today.
Well, thank you for the opportunity, Andrea. I appreciate it.